disappointed in myself because I planned to watch the second episode of the Santa Clauses so that we could talk about it, but I forgot.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah,
That can
I
just
haven't
die on Disney Plus a slow, painful death.
I haven't watched the second one yet, but they watched the first one last night, so I watched it a second time, and it did not get better upon a second watch. In fact, I might have liked it even less the second time I watched
It
it.
was real
I'll
bad.
be honest, it's been 2 weeks or so. It's been a week since I watched that first episode, and the only thing that has hung around is something that I was like, "That's a fun idea, fun bit." Is why doesn't Mrs. Claus have a name? That's the only thing, like a first name. That's the only bit that I was like, "Oh, that's a fun little bit."
That's what I said. When they purposely explored the fact, like the last Santa Claus, was he married? Was there?
Yeah.
That is an interesting aspect that I am intrigued by, but that's
That's
not where they're going to
that
go. They're just
that's
going
where
to
the
keep
fun
going with Angry Santa.
that might be where the fun stories, them figuring out where's what happened to the last Santa. Did he actually die? Did I kill him, or was this all some,
Well, that was
elaborate?
what those are things I caught on the second viewing where Mrs. Claus was questioning him a lot about, did he have a wife, blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there, has the mythology changed? Because he disappeared. He never
Mhm.
saw who Santa was. He disappeared, and it was just his clothing. But everyone's
true.
treating Santa as if he saw who the previous one was.
Yeah,
Like
and
he doesn't know.
they
Yeah.
had an extended conversation, but he mostly just says, "Hang
He
right
was
here, I'll get you back
gaslit the
whatever
whole
falls."
time until, nope, you're Santa now.
Like they just may put it on, but nobody's surprised when he shows up. Yeah, it's true.
That's
Anyway,
true. In this case, they thought that he was dead and they were sad, but they were not sad for the last Santa.
no, and that's why it's always been
But
the
he was
theory that it was a planned abduction of Scott Calvin because
Yeah.
he just fears none of the elves care. They all knew if you watch the movie, you watch the early parts of the movie, you will see elves in the opening title sequence running around his neighborhood.
Look,
So
those
like
elves are
they were
sneaky.
targeted attack.
They could easily pull off an assassination.
Moving away from
All
that,
right.
Moving away from that, though, how's everybody doing?
Doing pretty well.
Yeah,
I can't
we're
complain.
we're a few days post Thanksgiving now, slowly coming back into the weird reality limbo that is December.
Yeah.
I was talking
Yeah,
about
David
that
and I
earlier.
were- You and I, Josh, were talking about this, and then David and I talked about it. This time of year just doesn't seem real because there's 2 weeks of work and then holidays and then kind of 2 weeks of work, but nobody's really actually working just because we know there's more holidays and nobody's working. So just give us the whole damn time off.
The
I
real
know.
dead, the real
They could
dead
do it.
period, in my line of work, you don't get as many press releases. You don't get as many, big event. I mean, there'll be big events, but they're all the same event. They're all just
Yeah.
Christmas themed or holiday lights on events, so you're not really getting anything new. It
Mm-mm.
feels, you could just copy and paste last year to this year and just move around the times and dates a little bit. But yeah, we are coming off of Thanksgiving specifically since it's not a Thursday. I was just telling Garrett earlier. Friday felt like Saturday. Saturday felt like Sunday. And I don't know where I am today. It just feels like a weird day. It feels like a lost day in here this Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know what to do with myself, because it
Be a
is
good
like,
day to go to the movies if I didn't have a kid.
well, that's true. Hey, you know what? Soon enough, he'll be able to go with you.
And that's what I'm looking the most forward to is just
Yeah.
all of us going together, teaching him to do the right thing at the theater, unlike our experience for the movie we're talking about today.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, but I want to do a check-in. Has anybody watched anything this week that isn't what we're talking about?
I watched Rush Hour.
Yeah, for sure.
You watched Rush Hour. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I rewatched Rush Hour.
Just does it hold up? Is it still funny? I know
Honestly-
the movie's bad, but is it funny?
It's mostly still funny. I mean,
Does Jackie Chan stunt hold up?
honestly, the part that holds up the least is Jackie Chan dropping the N-word. That's the kind of the weirdest part of the movie that like
He does
I'm
that.
surprised that it worked in 98. It's still kind of funny, but I'm surprised it worked in 98. I'd say it is very much the entire movie depends on the fact that it's Chris Rock or Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. If it was any other two actors, the movie would not work.
I agree
Yeah.
with that. That's
Um,
why those movies are good. Is those
Chris
two
Tucker is-
specifically.
Chris Tucker's very funny though. I love his whole thing when he's on the phone with the kidnapper and he's like, "What do you think you got, Chelsea Clinton?" And
Love these
man,
dating references.
the guy going, he goes, "I want 50 million in 50, and I want 50 million in 20, and 50 and 10 million in 10." He goes, "Okay, 10 million in 10. You want any fives at that?" Hilarious.
It is. Yeah,
And then Jackie Chan, he's whooping butt all through the movie. It's one of the few Jackie Chan American movies that mostly feels like a Jackie Chan Chinese movie. They give it time. They give the action time to breathe. Jackie likes to do it all in one take if he can, and they don't do it all the time, but they have at least a few extended sequences where you can tell they probably did 100 takes of this one shot for Jackie to get it right.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. The funny thing is, it's a lot faster than I remember. As a kid, I remember being a longer movie, but it's just whipping through there.
Yeah.
You
Anyway.
just the first one, right?
Just the first one. I didn't watch Rush Hour 2, which was always my favorite as a kid.
Rush Hour has a 3.4 on Letterboxd, which
Yeah.
is
The
higher than
first
I
one's-
expected.
The first one is funny. It's not a good movie, but it is a funny movie. The second one is bad.
The most popular review is a 4-star review that just says Jackie Chan says the N-word.
Yep.
So that's what they got out of that. I watched a few things this week, a little bit all over the place. Some were good, some were bad. I revisited Avatar, finally. That's the big one, right?
Still never seen it.
Oh, David's never
I
seen
don't know.
it.
If I didn't know that, I lost it somehow. I don't think I knew that. Yeah, well, I decided it was time because I knew in the back of my head that I probably should rewatch it before the new one comes out. And then I had a weird hankering the other day, and I thought, I better jump on it while it lasts.
Got to do it while the momentum's hot.
Exactly. I better do it while I actually want to.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what. I really wanted to like it more, but I still didn't. I still didn't like it. And I was hoping I would. I was like, maybe a decade of internet hate and all that stuff has been kind of overblown.
Right.
Not really. It's kind of dull. It's very dull, actually. I thought the characters were really two-dimensional, which is ironic for the 3D aspect of the movie. But I'm watching it at home, so there's no 3D here. But the characters, there's no depth to them, really. The story is, every story's been done, but stories can be done over and over again in new ways. And this one just didn't really do it in a new way, I thought. And it was way, way too long. Way too long.
Now, how long is it? Like 2 hours, 10 minutes, something like that?
2 hours, 41 minutes.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
I could see how that would be difficult without the visuals, because for me, the visuals are what made that movie what it was. I remember thinking, the story in itself is Pocahontas, but the visuals, it was essentially the resurgence of 3D. It was good 3D. It was enveloped 3D. I felt surrounded and I felt in the world. And, a lot of 3D movies are just stuff that's coming at the face. This one felt like everything that I was a part of it, but the story itself, standing alone, never felt strong enough. And so I could see that being difficult to overcome while watching at home without the visual.
So then, though, you guys do intend to watch the second one?
I don't want to.
How can we not is where I'm at. I feel like we have to.
Having not seen the first one, I didn't see it for a long time, mostly just it didn't look interesting to me. And it didn't, and I maintained that for a while. Then when I joined this show, I was like, well, there's no reason to watch Avatar unless we do Avatar the series at this point. I'll just hold off, and then I'll have a fresh take when we finally do the Avatar movie or movies. That date has yet to come.
Yes, our distaste of Avatar has kept us from that.
Yeah.
And the wheel, thankfully, never put it on us back when the wheel was alive and spinning.
Yeah.
So we never had to deal with it, ever came up. But that's still kind of my goal. Is I intend to not really watch it because I've gathered a lot about it over time. It appears to be sort of a very overt commentary on English/American colonialism and, the plight of the Native American or the Native South American, Central America, wherever, the constant exploitation of various societies, civilizations for their resources. So that's all sounds cool. But, I don't know. I've never heard anybody spin it and tell it to me and it does the best job of it that anybody's ever done with that type of commentary. That's always, no one's ever said, man, if you want a movie that really tells the good version of that story, Avatar.
I will say we've got a Patreon that you can join.
You should.
With that, you can get access to different levels. One of them includes our Patreon, and we have a friend of ours, Arch, big Avatar fan, and he is excited about it. He is the one person who I know is genuinely super excited about this. And so there is people that exist and look forward to it. I think some of the other discussion that we talked about was, is this one going to be any different than the first one? Is it just going to be another version of humans invading this water world instead of humans invading this forest world? I think that is a concern that people have had based on
It is.
things alone.
Well, this one definitely
What else?
seems to be if the first one was really drawing on the commentary of, the Native American people, this one definitely seems to be skewing towards Polynesia and, the people in New Zealand, Australia, Samoa, those types of indigenous groups who've had their own issues. There is very much the conversation that we have about what's been done to Native Americans here in the United States. They very much have that conversation or a similar conversation in New Zealand and Australia and what was done to the native populations there.
It's
Uh,
really so funny to hear you specifically talk about that, knowing that you haven't seen them, because you're totally right that I think that's the intention. But man, if you watch the movie, I don't think you'll come out with that being the goal.
exactly. Well, that's what I mean.
Because I'm sitting here going, I mean, yeah, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. Didn't do it well.
Yeah, and
We'll have to find a time because I would like David to see them because I think it would be interesting.
Yeah.
I ended up
He's
seeing two
also
movies that are much
protector.
or a lot less sophisticated. Well, one of them was pretty good. I saw Clerks 3, which is less sophisticated.
Oh
The
yeah,
best line of dialogue that came out of that was, "This will make you higher than Godzilla's asshole." So
That doesn't sound like a pleasant experience.
tell that to Jay and Silent Bob, my friend. Tell that to Jay and Silent Bob.
I can only tell it
The
to
other one I saw was She Said, and that is about the reporting on the Harvey Weinstein scandals that were going on essentially and kind of jumpstarting the Me Too movement. And I really enjoyed it. Andrew, he and I talked about it. He said it was a 5-star movie for him.
Yeah.
I think that it was very similar to Spotlight, investigative journalism. You're kind of seeing how the sausage is made, some of the effects. You get some good character stuff. But for me, I think the details were just too fresh that it just kind of came across as like a reporting on what happened in movie form rather than a documentary form. So it was really good. I think that you should see it, but it was
it just
not
so
not as good as Spotlight.
interestingly, so Garrett, with She Said, that did make a little bit of a rounds on the TikTok sphere, the TikTok commentary group, because there was an article. I don't remember who wrote it. Probably The Hill or something. Was like, why are Oscar contenders failing at the box office? And
I
they were
read that.
specifically talking about She Said, which underperformed even the industry expectations. And a lot of people were talking about it, and they're like, and one point, like you said, is that this is so fresh. This is like a thing that happened within the last 6 years or 5 years. Maybe it's been longer. I don't remember. But it all feels like we just lived through this. And that's a very short amount of time. That it's a 2 point thing. It's a kind of a twofold thing because it's not been long enough for people to have forgotten about this. And it's because it's so recent, a documentary would have been more informative because that would at least remove the element of creative license, which they're going to have to take with a movie like that. So I don't know if that factored in as well. If it's okay, well, what all have they had to change just to make this a movie?
Yeah. Somewhat related to that topic, I want to say something about real quick that I've been thinking about. Andrew and I saw The Fablemans this week also, and we both really liked it. But, you mentioned that She Said underperformed at the box office, and there's a story about why are Oscar movies doing that? I hadn't seen that. I'd like to look that up and read it. But I saw a similar notion about The Fablemans, and I'm seeing this discourse emerge that I don't love, and I'm wondering if you've seen it at all, David, where I say more, like legendary directors like Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino have said some things lately about Marvel movies that have really rubbed superfans the wrong way, even though when you take a step back, they didn't really say anything that controversial. But I've noticed this discourse emerging where people seem to be pretty cynically rooting against the success of original films, and they root for the success of superhero movies and sequels.
I mean, a little bit, yes. I think there's definitely a disconnect between a lot of these legendary directors, I think, and what is a Marvel movie, because they throw around the term Marvel movie, and then you listen to what they describe sometimes. This was not necessarily the issue with Tarantino, but a lot of times they just describe a generic blockbuster. I think Marvel movies has come to be industry talk for generic blockbuster. Like Jurassic World Dominion is a Marvel movie because it's that big scale, large film. What was another one? Somebody last year. Oh, it was the guy who directed Dune.
Denis
No.
Villeneuve.
It was not him. It was somebody else was talking about. They said Dune was a Marvel movie, and I was like, well, no, it's not. But they were like, because of what it is, it's a big scale epic thing. And they described No Time to Die the same way. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. So there's the discourse about Marvel movies, and there's Marvel Studios specifically, right? I have seen a little bit of, yeah, there are some two friends that are like, haha, take that, Tarantino or whatever, whoever it is, Scorsese, your movie underperformed. But there is a bit of we've talked about this before. Marvel Studios films, there's only 3 a year. Okay. In 2019, there were something like 800, 900 movies released. 3 of them were Marvel Studios films, right? So for whatever reason, Studios' response to Marvel Studios' success, the other like Warner Brothers and Sony and Universal, their response, for whatever reason, has been to try to copy that and make a lot like big money, I think. And they have given up on the legendary status of directors and movie stars and just making alternative adult content for people. And I don't know why they've kind of abandoned that notion, but that's kind of what's happened is that you don't get those movies anymore. But I don't know why Marvel Studios being successful means, oh, we can't possibly greenlight a movie like, I don't know, Schindler's List. Like The Fabelmans should be getting a ton of press. It's a Steven Spielberg film.
That's how I feel. And that's what concerned me and bothered me is I don't understand why a Marvel movie being successful is reason to crap on a new Spielberg movie, which is definitely what I've been seeing.
Yeah, there's no
It's like,
reason
huh,
from
it only got number 5 in the box office.
I mean,
It's
the
weird.
funny
It's
thing
a
is,
deeply weird thing.
the actual feud there is between Netflix and Steven Spielberg, I think, anyway. But the fans themselves should not be celebrating it. They should be questioning, I think, why, because not Marvel Studio. I don't think it really, generally, it's Marvel Studios' fault that other studios have given up on trying to program against them and have tried to copy them.
Yeah.
Put out some alternative programming.
Yeah.
They just don't. They would rather try to copy and create their own mega franchise that they can do over and over again. And that's what these directors are lamenting is that Martin Scorsese can't get anything greenlit because all he has to offer are his style films, and his style films have never made billions of dollars at the box office.
Yeah. It's a weird time.
Tarantino film, as popular as they are in America, I don't think are as successful overseas.
Maybe not.
You know what's super successful overseas? A movie that you can that has a bunch of superheroes with their faces covered.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. It's just.
But I don't understand the idea of fans rooting against the Fabelmans or rooting against, what an insert movie does.
No, it's weird to me that the success of a movie is solely based on box office returns now. Because I'd pick the Fabelmans over Wakanda Forever literally every day of the week. But that's not I don't know. There's too much team stuff, like my team, your team stuff going on every aspect of life. And it's very gross. And I don't know about it. I could talk about it for
tribalism. Yeah.
I could talk about it all day, but I will say that the fandoms continue to concern the hell out of me and I don't want anything to do with them.
And that's why, I didn't have it up there anymore, but when I first started my Letterboxd account, that was like something I put in there was like caught somewhere between film bros and film snobs, just trying to have fun. I'm not one of those guys who's, you really need to watch the Palm d'Or.
Right.
And I'm not one of those guys that's, oh man, suck it. We won the box office this year. It's just, I don't know why you can't find a way to enjoy both.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even both is even on my part a bad way of putting it because I don't think they're both,
Yeah.
I don't think it's one or the other. I think you can find a way to enjoy each.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gross. People are sucking the fun out of art, I tell you. All right. Well, on that note, let's talk about the movie we were actually talking about this week. How about that? Because that'll be a much more fun conversation.
Can't wait to see how Spielberg feels about this.
I know, right? So this week we're talking about Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I will say right now that our intention is to not give any significant spoilers away in this episode. So you should be able to listen to this or watch it. If you have not seen the movie yet, we will do our best to keep all the surprises intact. And then later, we will have a spoiler-filled episode for you towards the end of the year once the movie is actually made available on Netflix. So that's the goal. We'll do our best.
We'll do our best.
So yeah, well, this movie had a very short, as of this recording, it's only got a 1-week limited engagement in a little over 600 theaters. So not a lot of chances for people to see it, being that it's only got 1 week. So we will wait for the Netflix release for that.
Yes, which should be December, I think, 28th.
I think it's 23rd.
23rd.
I think it's 23rd. So you should be able to watch it for Christmas.
A little bit of the Christmas Eve gifts.
Yes, it'll be nice. So Glass Onion finds a Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc back to solving a mystery, a little different one this time. He, along with a bunch of other connected, well-established people, are invited to a private island owned by billionaire
Braun.
Miles Braun. That's right. I was about to just say Edward Norton, but I couldn't remember his name. Where they are going to solve a murder mystery. That's the basic premise. We've got a brand new cast of characters aside from Daniel Craig.
Yeah, and
He's the only one there's no one else.
So
right?
technically, Noah Siegel returns. He played Trooper Wagner in Knives Out 1. He returns as a character, but is a completely different guy. It's a
that's
completely
funny.
different character. So it's not the same character, just the same actor.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new cast members, a lot of fun cameos that we will not spoil as well, but the main cast is also great and full of well-known people. You got Dave Bautista, Leslie Odom Jr., Kate Hudson, Catherine Hahn, a ton. So a lot of fun. Let's start with general reactions, I think. I'll go ahead and say that, well, yeah, I'm going to start because I get to tell my story of why my experience wasn't the best. So we got to see this in the theater. And unfortunately, there were some teenagers in the theater who ruined a lot of the experience for me. Lots of talking and phone being out and taking pictures and stomping up and down the stairs and never being quiet, even after they were asked, all that good stuff. So I was distracted a lot. And I do also want to say, because I feel like I have to, I do see the irony in watching a Netflix movie in a theater and it being ruined by the crowd.
Yes.
That irony is not lost on me.
Yeah.
Netflix is probably smirking if they were to listen to this and go, see, told you.
See.
But
Mm.
I maintain that the overall theater experience was still the right way to watch it because there were a lot of great laugh moments. There was a moment where a chunk of the audience applauded. I don't know if y'all caught that, but there was a lot of good crowd reaction. So even though these three kids ruined my night, it was still worth it for the theater experience. I really liked the movie. I thought it was bigger than Knives Out in pretty much every way. The location, bigger. The characters even felt like bigger personalities. In the first movie, it's a family. And in this one, it's more of a friend group. And they are all either wealthy or very powerful or extremely popular in some way. So they're different kind of people. It's so much funnier. It's a lot funnier than the first one. And that's not to say the first one's not funny. This one just packs more jokes in, I think. And so just in general, I really loved the movie. I thought it was really good. Spoiler-free general reaction. Okay. David, why don't you go next?
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. It was bigger and it was more, it's so funny because the first one, was always played as a theatrical release, small-ish budget, only $40 million. And yet it was very small and very closed and very tight. You didn't really see a ton of the outside world. It was mostly at that one location. You got a little bit out into the town around where what Knives Out takes place, but not really out in the world. And this one, much bigger. You see a lot more of the universe, if you will, the world of this Knives Out, this KOU, if you will. And you get a sense of the world. And so it's funny that the one that's for Netflix for home is all big and huge and open. And the one that was meant for theaters was small and compact. And this one even has a bigger budget. And you can kind of see where a lot of it went in creating this really cool, enigmatic, rich person with no inhibitions island. And the group comes together. It is very like Death on the Nile in a sense. They all get on the yacht and they go out and it's a group of friends as opposed to a family mystery. Like you said, Josh, and performances are very good. They're very funny. All of the characters, all of the actors totally, I think, feel like they just totally nail it. Kate Hudson plays a fashion designer who's very bad at controlling what she thinks. And as is, Dave Bautista plays a Twitch streamer. And I'll save some of the jokes are too funny, so I won't give away exactly what he talks about in his Twitch streams. But, we all know some Twitch streamers, I think. Anyway, and then the only one that I think, Catherine Hahn plays a governor, and she's perfect in that. The only one I think that was kind of underserved a little bit might have been Leslie Odom Jr., who I think could have used a little bit more. I think he did well with what he had, but I think he needed like a thing, like, what the other three really had a thing, and I think he needed something specific. And then I tell you what, without giving anything away, Janelle Monáe, is that how you pronounce it? I didn't want to get that wrong, but I thought I might in this movie. I thought she was great. And then of course there's Benoit Blanc, and I can't quite do it, so I'll avoid it. But Daniel Craig, I know he had to go back, get with his dialect coach to refine the voice. It's tough. For me, if I want to be Ben Blanc, you just have to say suicide several times like that. And he nails it. He's so funny in this. I love all of his little replacement words to avoid cursing. They are all great without giving many of them away. I believe at one time he just goes, "Oh, Elvis," something like that. Hilarious. And yeah, I don't know. Well, you said, Josh, it was funnier, but it wasn't funny out of place. It very much seemed to fit with these people, because this group of people, there is a connection that holds them together. And I'll avoid saying exactly what it is, but it really allows the humor to play to that. And yeah, so I mean, and for lack of a better word, the twist is great. I think the twist is great. The reveal of what's really going on. I was like, at first I was like, oh, is this okay? And then I was like, well, let me see how it plays out. And then I love how it played out. Everything about it was like, yeah, okay, cool. Loved it. Yeah, I mean, first reaction, this is Zombieland and Zombieland double tap for me. Like, the movies are pitch perfect right next to each other. The things that this one does well are equal in my head to the first one, because Knives Out is perfect, cozy, quiet, a little bit tense. This one's not quite as tense, but it makes up for its lack of tension with a sense of, I don't know, excitement, bigness. I don't know. I can't think of the right word, but it just felt bigger. Garrett?
Yeah, I don't disagree with most of that. I think it was a lot of fun. I'm in the minority where I didn't love the mystery as much, but that doesn't take away anything because the whole ride itself was fun and is fun. And everybody is delivering a great performance. I think they had a couple of unnecessary characters in there that they could have given some similar, like more time to Leslie Odom Jr. for, but everybody does, again, hit a home run with what they're given and how they give it. And that's also key. And so the characters are bigger. Everything is bigger. The world is bigger. All of it is so much bigger. And it is such a funnier movie. It is not as tense. That first one had some moments where it was really tense and really kind of scary. For me, I felt it was just really good to see Benoit Blanc. I really look forward to him. I like how they interacted with the external world.
Right.
This movie takes place during pandemic times. And so that's
Yeah.
referenced a few times throughout there. And to see how he kind of is in the world externally is a lot of fun and gives him some extra depth and some extra fun to his character and who we may or may not know.
He's not quite as enigmatic this time. We got to pull the curtain a little bit back.
Yeah. And yeah, for me, again, the thing that I just walked away was thinking I enjoyed the mystery, but I felt like I didn't solve it until there was one reveal. And then everything else was like, oh, yeah, okay, I see that. 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 And it didn't really surprise me. It made a lot of sense and I had no problems with it. It just wasn't that same kind of what that I had while watching the original one. And so the overall reveal, while just kind of left me feeling flat, everybody else has been like super into it. And so the thing that I love about these movies and that leaves me looking forward to it is the rewatch, because you hear everybody else's perspective and you pick up on these little things and you see different things. And so the rewatch a lot of times is better than the initial watch. So I'm really looking forward to the Netflix drop so I can see it again.
I do think that the success of that first Knives Out was the fact that it didn't pin everything. It didn't pin the entire movie on a big reveal in the last 10 minutes. Great thing about that first Knives Out movie is that it tells you who's in trouble at the beginning of the movie. And so over the course of the movie, you're kind of rooting against Benoit Blanc a little bit. You're like, oh, he's really cool and charming and he's doing the right thing. He's trying to find out who murdered this old man. But you're kind of rooting for Ana de Armas in that first movie to kind of get away with it, And then the movie gives you enough information to make you feel better when you find out, oh, she didn't do it. Oh, great. You know what I mean? You feel better, but it doesn't pin everything on this little thing. And this one doesn't do that either. It doesn't pin everything on a big reveal in the final 3 minutes, 4 minutes of the movie. What it does is it manages to change the what the stakes of the movie are midway through, which I think is a real and that might work for you and it might not. So like just going in, if you're watching this, if you're watching this review and you're gonna go watch the movie, just kind of have an open mind, be ready because you may or may not. You may be like Gary and be like, yeah, that didn't work for me, but the rest of the movie will carry you through. You may be like me and be like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. I don't know. Garrett, best Benoit Blanc impression?
It's basically just Foghorn Leghorn.
I was gonna say it's just talking.
Can't do it. I'm too much
Get
pressure.
Josh,
to think about it,
Benoit
to be honest.
Blanc?
Give me a line from the movie and I'll say it.
Hang on.
That's how I roll better.
So Nikki and I were laughing at the idea of having Rachel Weisz be in a third Knives Out movie because that's Daniel Craig's wife, I believe, correct? And Nikki thinks it should be a character that Benoit Blanc just absolutely hates, right? And I said, ideally, she's a rival detective who also gets hired. And then Benoit Blanc would be like, you hired this sea hag to come over here and investigate your mystery? I'll do it for free. Or something like that.
I like the you hired this sea.
Right? That's a line I made.
It sounds like what he'd say.
This.
Rain Johnson,
smell
if you
the-
need any kind of screenwriters, we have two here in our midst. It sounds
I can smell the brimstone coming off her cloven hooves. These are just Ron Swanson lines that I.
Yeah, I can't. I don't think I can do it. But I was just looking up a quote, and I really enjoyed. Nobody tried to kill you, vainglorious buffoon. Yeah, no, he's great. Daniel Craig is such an interesting figure, I think, because he is getting a rare opportunity to reinvent himself with a new iconic character, because I think Benoit Blanc could become an iconic character. And it's so hard, I think, for some people to get away from being a James Bond type person. So the fact that he played James Bond for so long and now at this stage of his career is finding a new original franchise to blow up in.
And it's a completely different,
Utmost respect to Daniel Craig. He's incredible.
It's a completely different character.
And
from
it's,
James
yes,
Bond.
completely different. He's so
You know?
suave and smart and mysterious.
and that's the
But also
and
a
it's
little
the key.
silly.
Well, and that's the key because you look at Daniel Radcliffe. We talked about this in our Weird Al review. The drastic difference that he has taken. But for me, I don't associate Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter. I associate him with Harry Potter, but I associate Daniel Radcliffe as a standalone actor because I have seen the trajectory of his career. I understand that he has done a lot of weird stuff, and like most people probably haven't seen that. But I think that's what you have to do. You look at people who have been James Bond, and they continue to be the spy, the debonair, the leading man, the charmer, and you can't escape it. But he's going, nah, I'm gonna go a different way and show you what I can. And
Well,
that's
he's-
what you have to do to reinvent.
He's really been fortunate with this role because it is something that both needs somebody who can command that level of like authority because he has that. Like when Benoit Blanc is like being the smart guy, the detective, the figuring everything out, you really buy it. But also when he's kind of just being a little bit goofy, because he is just kind of a goofy dude who, when he doesn't, this is it is a very Sherlock trope, but like when he doesn't have a mystery going on, he's just sulking in his bathtub, like we get like it's totally works. And Daniel Craig just pulls off a little bit of goof, just the right way. I'll tell you this, Ryan Johnson knows how to write a detective rant and Daniel Craig knows how to deliver it because it's just so like anything that would be bad, it's just so compelling when he does it. And I think if another person was doing it, it wouldn't be as compelling.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think no, he is Blanc, and I don't think I could see anyone else doing it now already because he is such a different person in that role. I always like to tell people to check out Logan Lucky to see Daniel Craig be really fun because he's if Blanc were dumb and a criminal because he's still got that weird Southern accent charm, but he's just I don't know. It's very funny, and it kind of flew under the radar when it came out. So I recommend Logan Lucky too.
Here's a little fun detail is that Ryan Johnson told Nerdist in 2020 that he briefly thought about, he considered I think he had to weigh whether or not it was funny enough to justify doing it. He considered Blanc having an inexplicably different accent in each movie, just as, I don't know, just, he didn't go beyond that. He just said, I thought about maybe he would have like a different accent in each movie with no reasoning. And
That would be very silly.
I don't know if that it's kind of one of those things you go, is that going to be funny? Or if you were just going to go, this is stupid, and you got to weigh that option sometimes. You're like, is it stupid enough to be funny or is it too stupid to be funny? you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a line that he wrote extremely well in Glass Onion because some of the jokes are pretty ridiculous, but I never felt like they crossed the line into, okay, this is too stupid, you know? Especially with early on there's some pandemic jokes
Yes.
that were over the top but funny.
Yeah. Well, and and the thing is, we all have such a collective trauma about the pandemic, and this is very much a pandemic movie. I don't mean to say that it was made during the pandemic features into the story a little bit,
Yeah.
and kind of pretty cleverly in some ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have such a weird association with it now. Just the fact when the first person showed up and they were wearing a mask, I went,
Yeah.
I had
I was
forgotten.
very
I
nervous when I first realized that. I was like, "Oh no, oh no, that's too real." But it was
and
fine.
then,
It ended up being
and then
fine.
I was like, are they gonna?
It's one of the few times I've seen the pandemic worked into a movie or a show that I was okay with.
Yeah.
Usually they fumble it because it's still weird.
Yes. And yeah, and it is, and it's like we're all kind of, and like you think about it in the moment, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, does this just date this movie? Is that going to be part of the issue going forward? Is that, in 2040, if you were to pick up Glass Onion because you heard that, your dad really loved it or something, you watch and you go, oh, what's going on with these masks? I forgot,
Yeah.
if we'll get, God willing, we're all still alive then. But, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
I don't think so. I don't think that'll be a problem because of how they deal with it. But you're right. There are definitely some different movies that won't make sense or hold up later down the line. But
yeah.
this one I think handled it well. And, I think history will remind people that this was normal.
I do have a recommendation for everybody because I'm looking up about the production. Ryan Johnson, obviously, there's a little bit of Hercule Poirot in here with the same, the recurring detective with new cases. He said that he drew a lot from Agatha Christie's work, but there was another movie, another whodunit that honestly, maybe guys, recommendation for you here. It's a movie called The Last Sheila, and it's a whodunit from 1973, written by Anthony Perkins and Stephen Sondheim. And I thought that was pretty interesting because I'm a fan of Stephen Sondheim, his Broadway productions. I didn't realize that he had done very many film scripts. So that's very interesting. It's starring Richard Benjamin, James Coburn, James Mason, and Ian McShane, as well as Raquel Welch. So movie from the 70s and loosely inspired. This one, Ryan said that this one kind of all takes place on a yacht, but it is that sort of, group of friends/frenemies stuck together. And that was a big inspiration for the movie. So The Last Sheila, looking at that.
Okay. Well, how do we want to handle the box office portion?
Oh, let's do this. So up front, Netflix has not officially released numbers for any of their theatrical releases. They never released anything for Roma or Army of the Dead. However, box office analysts have done their best to give estimates for those movies. And the good folks over at Deadline and Anthony D'Alessandro, they wrote an article that I'm just going to cite here. I'm going to read a little bit from on Knives Out's official performance. Box Office Mojo is reporting that in its opening weekend, its opening 3 days, Knives Out managed to bring in 9.4 million, which is far and away the best that any Netflix release has done, from what we know. Over its 5-day Thanksgiving stretch, Netflix's 1-week sneak preview of Glass Onion and Knives Out Story managed to outdo all the other adult counter programming with an estimated 13.3 million over its 5-day and projected 15 million by next Thursday, which will be the close of its 1-week preview. So if it does manage to do that, it gets up to 15 million. It'll blow away pretty much anything else Netflix has ever put out. Red Notice, which they came out last year, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot, was pretty much their best. It had brought in about 1.5 million, analysts say, and Army of the Dead brought in just over 1 million. Roma, best estimates were that it brought in 3 million over the course of 4 weeks, but those were not 4 continuous weeks. It was like over and over again. If that 9.3 3-day holds up, that'll be the 10th best opening for a title in less than 900 theaters. This movie was only in 638 theaters across the United States, which is not a lot. So to do that well with that few theaters is really good. And I really hope that it means that Netflix will release some official numbers. They might consider putting it back in theaters. Maybe we'll see. They did briefly have Roma in theaters while it was also on Netflix. The rest of this weekend is pretty grim.
Pretty grim.
Black Panther: Wakanda Forever is projected to be the number one movie of the weekend that Knives Out Glass Onion came out with 45 million, which was the top end of my estimate, thankfully. And then Disney's Strange World, which has had almost no real promotion that I've seen, brought in 11.9. It's going to that is a bomb. That movie had a budget of $180 million. And for whatever reason, Disney did not put much effort into it. I don't know why, in terms of the promotion. So that's going to die a death, and that's going to go to plus in about 45 days, and then everybody's going to have thoughts on it then. Just kick that can down the road. Devotion, one of three movies starring Jonathan Majors that we keep seeing, brought in 5.9 million. That's about the Korean War. And then The Menu hung around in the top 5 spot with 5.2 mil. So that's your weekend that Glass Onion came out. Overall, a pretty, I think it's going to prove to be one of Netflix's most successful decisions, but it could have been better. They paid 400. So we've talked about Knives Out a lot on this show. One of those was a news thing we did back when this first announcement came out that Netflix had bought the rights to the sequels for Knives Out, and they paid like $400 million.
469 million.
Good grief.
Yeah, you got to question their business model because everybody has a Netflix account in some way, shape, or form. So you all have a Netflix account. So what are they getting by not leaving a movie like that in the box office where they could make billions of dollars?
Yeah.
Or at least hundreds of millions.
And
Maybe not a billion, but hundreds.
If anything, the fact that it has a chance to make $15 million in less than 700 theaters shows that there's an interest for this movie way ahead of its Netflix release.
Let us not forget how long the original Knives Out stayed in the box office and just continued to make money, hand over fist, money after money. I mean, the rewatchability of it was so high that it just stayed in the box office, much like Top Gun Maverick.
For sure. The first Knives Out made $311 million in the United States on a $40 million budget. Like, it was a runaway hit that no one expected to be a runaway hit in 2019. Still one of my favorite movies of that year.
Put it on the Netflix machine and it dies in the abyss of content overload.
It's really weird because I don't see how, unless they decide to change their box office strategy, I don't see how Netflix doesn't lose money on Knives Out.
Yeah.
At $469 million, and you intentionally cut off the money printer. I don't get it. And because you're not going to make up that money in subscriptions.
Yeah.
Whatever new subscribers you might get would be, like you said, it'd be very minimal because who doesn't have a Netflix account already or access to one?
And they've been losing subscribers over the last 2 years since they made this purchase, or year and a half since they've made this purchase.
And they're going to release it on DVD, video, 4K HD. And so people are going to they'll get money that way, maybe, but
if they do that.
So I don't know why the streaming and the theater industry haven't figured out a way to coexist, because I don't really see them as true competitors like they seem to present themselves. Like, there is a world where they all live in harmony and everybody gets a lot of money and they just choose to not print the money.
Now, here's another good reason to look up this Deadline article. So the article, and maybe we can put it in the show notes. I'll send it to you guys. But again, it's Anthony D'Alessandro. Look up his Knives Out opening weekend thing. He actually has some details, some rumors about how Netflix struck a new deal with Glass Onion with theaters. So they've struck a deal with the exhibitors here that apparently is better than what they normally get from the other studios. They're going to give Netflix offered AMC, Cinemark, and Regal 40% rental, which is normally major studios take 60 to 70%. The streamers, so they're kicking in about 4 times the amount of money that the exhibitors would use on marketing. So somehow this ends up being a better deal for the theaters, this particular movie. I don't know if that can be a plan they can have going forward. But like you said, maybe if Netflix, as still the stream king at this point, can find a way to coexist with exhibitors, cutting around the big studios, maybe they can figure something out. But as of now, it is just baffling to me. Why not just give this thing 45 days, at the very least?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, again, we live in a world of content overload. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with why certain Oscar type movies aren't succeeding, is because the marketing for those kinds of movies are usually a lot less than what you get for a Marvel type movie in general, because that also has so many different kinds of platforms. And movies are not in theaters as long as they used to be. And those types of movies would come out near the end of the year, but now we've got blockbusters coming out at the end of the year too. So those it's just impacting and people aren't going to see those anymore. And people just, I mean, for the streamers, you leave it in the theaters for 45 days. That's what a general run is anymore. So with that, just don't get it.
Yeah, and so Red Notice I talked about just a minute ago brought in about 1.5 during its short theatrical run. And Netflix has said that's their most watched movie over the last year. It has hundreds and hundreds of hours of content. So maybe Glass Onion is lucky enough that it's so popular that it finds itself in that category too. If it become once it hits Netflix, it becomes their new most watched show for a while. Or
Yes.
That
most watched
benefit
movie for
them.
a
They
while.
don't
Yeah,
get
but
money unless they get money for every time it's watched.
That's what I don't get is, yeah, The Rock having the #1 movie on Netflix ever made has meant nothing to anyone.
Yeah.
It's a meaningless title, especially the way that they measure it, where it's, oh, Red Notice was watched for 460 billion minutes. No one knows what that means.
That doesn't really
How many
care.
people watched the movie, you
That's
dumbasses?
about- How many of your 200 plus million accounts started Red Notice and finished Red Notice? And
That's
I know
all I care about.
that's an easy number to
4
gauge.
people.
That's an easy
4
number
people.
to gauge because you could just put Red Notice on over and over again and in theory inflate the account. But there's got to be an algorithm that can sort that, right?
I've
But
never
what,
liked it
what I'm
because-
saying is maybe
Yeah.
if Glass Onion can do really well on Netflix, in addition to this big run that it actually had in the theater, maybe the third Knives Out story they'll actually put it in for a run. They'll 3 or 4 years from now, 5 years from now, whenever we get Knives Out 3, the other shoe or whatever they call it, it'll do really well, and maybe they'll put it in theaters. I've been saying that with every Netflix movie over the last few years. They should just why don't they just finally do it?
I know, but this is slightly different because it is their biggest, this is their biggest original movie ever.
They put a lot.
They've never paid this much for a movie. They've never made this much on a movie. Like Glass Onion
Instead
is
of doing
at
that,
least-
they're charging us more for passwords. Come on, Netflix.
yeah,
That's
they're
true.
not.
Hey, you know what? I really hope too. While we're at it, as we transition to the Letterbox game, I hope this movie gets some Oscar noms. I hope it gets like a best screenplay, like the
Be
first
cool.
Knives Out.
Screenplay, costumes,
yeah.
I see all
Justice
of
for
that.
Daniel Craig. Give that man best actor.
Honestly, you know what? I think sneaky Janelle Monáe.
I think that's what I'm saying too.
Now
Maybe-
Monet, best supporting actress. I'll campaign for.
I could see that. Okay, but you mentioned it, David. The Letterbox game, boys. I've seen it. Has anybody else seen it?
I've not seen it.
Nope.
No,
Okay.
I looked at the first
Fine.
Knives Out.
Okay. What was that for content?
The first
Okay.
Knives Out is still sitting at a 4.0, which is I think what it had last year when we reviewed it as well.
Yeah,
Alright.
I'm sure I'd love that.
Well, I've got some reviews from the Letterbox community. I'm going to start with the best one. There's no stars, but Tetra. Calling it Glass Onion is such a coward's way to avoid calling it Chives Out. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Ew, I hate that.
Everything else is just love and praise. Movies have the power to change the world. R.I.P. Agatha Christie. You would have loved Glass Onion. The biggest mystery. Oh, I don't want to read that one. Never mind. I really hope Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig get to make 30 more of these.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
just rain down praise.
Movies
Do it
change
till
the world is basically the message of the Fablemans. And I believe it with my whole heart.
do it till Ryan Johnson is in his 90s and Daniel Craig is 98 and he's just old Benoit Blanc going, oh, don't
Okay.
get with a knife in the kitchen.
What are we thinking, guys?
Josh, you go first. I always go first and cut you off. You go first.
11,000 reviews.
11,000, only 11,000 reviews so far. Interesting.
Oh, no, that's wrong. I hit the wrong button. More than that.
3.8.
That's a good guess. I'm going to say that it's sitting at, I'm going to guess that already right now it's still sitting at a 4.1.
Right now we have a 4.1 for Knives Out. A Glass Onion.
No, it's Glass Onion and Knives Out story.
Glass Onion and Knives Out story. Yeah. Missed
I
it.
gotta say, love the title. And I'm gonna love the Letterbox title at the end of the year, I think, because that's what I'm taking home.
Come
Oh,
away with it.
we need to get a belt or a trophy or something.
We do. I love that idea.
It's gonna happen. I think we talked about that. We got a little money in our Patreon box, baby.
We do.
Okay.
David sent it to me recently. I haven't touched
I
it.
did. I was like, I need to get this done, or it's just gonna continue to accumulate.
Yeah.
Check us out on Letterbox. What do we give it? Oh, hang on, I need to put this. So I hit it on the head.
You did.
All right, I'm gonna add that to the direct hit category, that direct hit list. I mean.
Bonus points for
Well, I
direct
tell you
hits.
what, guys, I tell you what, this end of the year show, it's 4 weeks away, and I've got all kinds of fun stats about this year's So Many Sequels.
Oh boy.
The letterbox game. That's funny.
I've got all kinds of fun little, things that, you guys don't think about. You guys are future thinkers, and I'm always looking at the past.
well, I don't know if that's good or not, but I don't know if that's healthy, but go on with it.
I'm always quantifying things. Anyway,
You like to look at you like to interpret data.
I do. I love
I
data.
do too, so I understand what you're saying. I get it.
I love it. These will be fun.
I
So
think-
my rating,
Yeah, go ahead. Say it. Do it.
I gave the first Knives Out 5 stars. This one is as good, if not better in some categories, so I'm also giving it 5 stars.
Same.
I'm a 4.5 just because the mystery didn't hit with me, but it's shouldn't stop it from being a movie. Gotta go see it. Oh, wait. Netflix won't let you go see it.
Right.
Turn on your television and get some
Wait.
friends together.
Hey,
I
but
don't
don't-
think you should watch it with people.
You know what? Does Netflix have that group watch feature still?
I don't know.
I think
You gotta
Disney
pay
added that
for it,
recently.
probably,
Disney
too.
Plus added that you can group watch movies on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, like with a microphone or whatever. But yeah, definitely, this is a movie that if you can get some friends over, crash on the couch, have it. I think it'd be a ton of movie to watch with a
Yep.
group of friends.
When you got the family over for Christmas and you're sick of Christmas movies, turn this one on.
No teens.
No teens.
No teens.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. I was like, teens can watch this movie, but then I was like, oh yeah, don't invite teens
No.
because they'll ruin it like they ruined it for me.
It's mostly appropriate for kids.
Yeah, it's fine for the most part. Okay, well, like we said earlier, we will have a spoiler-filled discussion of this show as a bonus episode later in the year, so look out for that. Otherwise, we are about to start So Many Santas is coming up next.
Oh yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Find us online on all of our regular haunts. You can find links at somanysequels.com, as well as our archive of all our past episodes for you to listen to. You can go back and dig up that Knives Out episode if you'd like, and subscribe to that Patreon account. Join our Discord so you can also talk about movies and shows and memes and news and whatever else you want to talk about with us in that group. We'll see you next time for So Many Santas 2022.